Good evening. I call to order the virtual meeting of the City of Lakewood City Council on April 27th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Paul,
Here. Madam Clerk, we can't hear you. Okay. Looks like Miss Millard's frozen. So if you're watching at home, please bear with us as we get through some technical difficulties. Council, when she comes back on, I will mute everyone, and when she calls, if you want to unmute yourself. So for those who are just tuning in, we are having a couple technical difficulties, so bear with us. But we'll get the meeting started with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have a general public comment time, and then two other periods of public comment for the consent agenda, as well as the second reading ordinances. As a heads up, Councilor Beta has asked to poll one of the ordinances for general business, and Councilor Springsteen will be making a motion to postpone the two second reading related to 5G until June 8th. So if you had planned on commenting on that, just give you a quick update there.
Bernie, could you call the roll?
I could.
Okay, Bernie, if you feel comfortable, we will go ahead and call roll, please.
The benefit of having two clerks on, I guess.
So I'm just going to go down the list. So, Mayor Paul,
Present.
Charlie Abel,
Here.
Jacob LeBreur,
Here.
Anita Springsteen,
Here.
Barb Franks,
Here.
Dana Gutwein,
Here.
David Skilling,
Here.
Mike Beta,
Here.
Ramey Johnson,
Here.
Sharon Vincent.
Here.
Did I get everybody?
Yep. Councilor Harrison is here.
Karen Harrison.
So we certainly have a quorum, and it looks like we have full attendance. So if you will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll have a quick moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So again, tonight we are participating in live public comment through Zoom for the second time, so please bear with us. The phone number to call is on the agenda, which can be found on our website at lakewood.org/council meetings. If you would like to speak, feel free to call in and be placed on hold until public comment. Please do not request to speak until we get to a public comment portion of the meeting. If you request to speak before that, it will be cleared and you will have to re-request again once we give that go ahead. That number is And I'm sorry, I do not have that number in front of me. Counselor Franks, do you want to let us know what that number is, please? Thank you.
The number is 1-669-900-9128, and then you'll need the ID 993-077-9027. So to repeat the number, 1-669-900-9128.
Thank you. All right, so this is the part of the meeting where we will go to general public comment to address City Council on items that did not appear on the agenda. All comments should be directed to the City Council. I ask that all persons calling in observe the same decorum of a City Council meeting held in person in the chambers. To participate via phone, again, please call 699-900-9128, and when prompted, enter the meeting ID 701-651-889. There will be 3 opportunities tonight for public comment. You'll have 3 minutes, and I will give you 30 seconds and then 5 seconds and politely ask you to wrap it up like normal. And we will now open general public comment. Bernie, do we have anybody?
No, we do not.
Okay, I will close general public comment, and then we'll go to an executive report by Ms. Hodson, and we have a motion to extend the declaration of emergency that we'll take up before the consent agenda. So with further ado, Ms. Hodson.
Thank you. Good evening. At your planning retreat at February 1st, you decided and asked that I give an update every quarter on the allocations that are issued, used, issued but unused, and still available. And because we focus so much on COVID and continue to do that, I will be issuing that. I've asked Travis actually to email that information to you tomorrow. So you'll get that in written form. It's probably better anyway to have all those numbers in written form. And if you have questions, please feel free to let me know. Okay. It's my pleasure to introduce our Chief Financial Officer. Her name is Holly Bjorklund, and the way you say her last name is Bjorklund. She's going to pop up on screen, I hope, pretty soon, so you can meet her in this unconventional way. I think you'll really enjoy meeting Holly, and I know you'll enjoy working with her. She started a week ago and has already done an enormous amount of work. While she's getting on screen, I don't see her yet. Let me tell you that next week on May 4th, we didn't have any items scheduled and thought that would be a perfect opportunity to do a COVID-19 budget impact update. So next week for the study session, we're really going to do a deep dive on the information that we have to date as it relates to COVID-19. And Holly will be the one who's leading that meeting. And I believe Aaron Nordman will assist her with that presentation. This will be a really important update for you to really understand what those impacts have been to us from a financial perspective. And we are going to invite the citizen members of the Budget and Audit Committee to the meeting on next Monday, so they can be a part of that broad overview. Councilor Bida has had a chance to meet Holly already. We had a brief meeting on Friday, and we agreed that we want to include the Citizen Budget and Audit Committee members to the meeting next week, and we'll give as much information as we have to date on May 4th. And I'm delighted to see that Holly has joined us. So hi, Holly. Again, this is Holly Bjorklund. And Holly, would you tell us a little bit about your experience and your education, and then maybe a couple of words about what we're finding by way of our financial status to date?
Sure. It's a pleasure to meet all of you, and I hope to meet you in person soon. We'll see when that happens. In terms of my background, I worked at Jefferson County for 7 years as the CFO. And prior to that, I worked in corporate large companies. And I have about 24 years of experience in finance. And I've done a multitude of different things. So hopefully have the right experience for being able to help us through this situation with COVID-19 and getting Lakewood to a good place financially.
Wonderful.
So I did want to talk a little bit about our situation. As you probably already know, that financially, that COVID-19, we really don't have a lot of information about what the financial impact is. But particularly for Lakewood, we do have a little bit of information now for sales tax for the month of March. We do have some preliminary information on March, and just keep in mind that March is half pre-COVID and half COVID. So it's a mix in terms of the information or the feedback that we have in terms of the results for the revenue. And we should have final numbers for March at the beginning of May. And then for the month of April, that'll be a full month of COVID sales tax information. And we should have that information, preliminary numbers in May, and then we'll have final numbers at the beginning of June. And even with that data, there's really not enough information to determine the impact to Lakewood. There's a lot of other factors that need to be estimated to forecast the impact to 2020, 2021, and 2022. And I expect it to be a long-term impact. So we need to plan for multiple years. And since this is a continually moving target, and you all will have to be thinking about a lot of different decisions, I will be providing regular updates on financial information as we have new financial information and providing financial analysis. I expect that I can provide those updates every 2 to 3 weeks. And we'll provide information on the economy and also Lakewood's revenue and expenditures. And the reason that I have that window of about 2 to 3 weeks is financial data doesn't really change that quickly. And also it gives us a little bit of time in between updates to be able to do additional analysis to bring you new information on what data we do get. And also, in order for us to provide most up-to-date information, we'll need to provide it to you the day of the council meeting versus in your packet that you get 10 days prior to the meeting, since the information, new information is changing all the time. And then also please keep in mind that the assessment information that we give you will continually be changing because the data is it's just not good data yet. And also we're traveling in new worlds and we don't really know what's going to happen financially. All we really know at this point is that COVID-19 is going to have a big impact on us. We just don't know how much. So I also wanted to give you a little bit of information of what I do know about Lakewood. It is preliminary, but I wanted to make sure that we're transparent and we're providing as much information as we can. So as I mentioned, we do have preliminary numbers for March sales tax. And compared to March of 2019, we're seeing a decline of 15 to 20%. So keep in mind that that is a 2 week of pre-COVID and 2 weeks of COVID. So theoretically, that could be an impact in April of 30 to 40%, but we really don't know at this point. We don't know if it's going to swing one way or the other. So we got to wait for more information. On the expense side, there's 3 different primary areas that we're focusing on, which is personnel, programs, and capital. For personnel, there are 49 open positions, and I think that Kathy has already shared with you that in the first quarter of 2020, due to the hiring freeze, there's already an $800,000 savings, which is great. I will also be giving an update when we do the work session on May 4th. I'll be giving an update on the savings from personnel. Looking at programs, we're going to review multiple different options, reducing, reforming, and eliminating different programs. And then for capital, we'll be reviewing and evaluating capital projects, whether they continue, slow them down, delay, or cancel projects. And some smaller areas that we're also looking at is printing, copying, binding, postage and delivery, meals expense, dues, membership, travel training, art acquisitions, and office supplies. And then I want to briefly mention that what I'm going to be discussing on May 4th at that work session, which will be the beginning of the discussion for financial standing of Lakewood. So as I said, I'll be giving multiple updates and we'll continue to have the conversations. But in this first conversation, I'll be providing a plan for conducting financial analysis on COVID-19 budget impacts. So since we don't have a lot of data yet, what I'll be sharing with you is what we're going to be looking at and what types of things we're going to analyze. You'll have the opportunity to give me feedback, and if there's anything that you feel that I've missed or that we need to look at from a different angle, I'd love to have that discussion. I'll also be providing updated economic data for nationwide and as much as we can provide for Lakewood, but right now I think it's going to be mostly nationwide in Colorado. And then we'll have limited information specifically on what's happening at the city of Lakewood. We're also going to be sharing with you some proposed questions that we'd like you to start thinking about. As I mentioned, there's a lot of decisions that you're going to have to make. So we would like you to start thinking about what we need you to be considering. So a couple examples of that is considering what the minimum fund balance is for each of the funds, if that's something we want to revisit, and limiting the additional spending beyond the budget. So not approving things that aren't already in the budget. Is that something that you want to consider? And that's pretty much all I have for today, and I'm looking forward to having a discussion with you on May 4th.
Great. Thank you so much, Holly. And welcome. We're excited to have you. Thanks for joining us during these interesting economic times. Please remember, if you have questions, you're more than welcome to submit those in advance so that staff has time to respond directly to those. So whatever questions you have, you can send them to me, you can send them to Ben, directly to Holly, whatever. And again, I want to welcome Holly Bjorklund and welcome you, and you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. So if you want to leave, you can. So thanks, Holly. Okay, moving along with my executive report. This evening, you are looking, let's see, you'll be on first reading, looking at the COVID-19 Impact Grant Program. There were a couple of errors in the way it was written. So Mary Ruther wrote a correction. I hope everyone got a copy of that. The staff recommendation for the amount of funding is $100,000, but on May 4th, that'll be your determination. You can change that amount to whatever you would like. We just put a starting point as $100,000. This is an unbudgeted item, so that's the reason why it's in the form of an ordinance, and it will take a first and second reading. So today is just scheduling it for the calendar date of May 4th. We asked you to be thinking about, is $100,000 the right amount?
May 11th. Sorry.
What am I saying? What am I saying?
Not May 4th, May 11th.
Oh, I'm sorry. May 4th, I have that study session on my head. I'm sorry. You're right. May 11th is our second reading. Thank you, Mayor. Additionally, staff is recommending that that is treated as an emergency ordinance so that on May 11th, if it's approved, the money will be made available shortly thereafter, as opposed to waiting the 30 days. So the second reading is May 11th, and it's up to you to decide what the amount that should be, if at all, if the program goes forward. Okay, you had asked for us also to look at potential opportunities where the city can support our business community. And there's a couple of things I want to report on. On April 22nd, the Economic Development staff hosted its first round of Lakewood Economic Recovery Task Force. And we have 10 major top industries by way of the number of jobs in Lakewood. We have 10. And at this meeting on April 22nd, they had representatives from the top 3. And those 3 were healthcare and social assistance, retail trade, and public administration. I got to listen in just for a couple of minutes, and it was a very robust conversation and very engaging by all of the 24 people who represent these different industries. Through each one, we went through each industry one by one and talked about short-term strategies, medium-term strategies, and long-term strategies. At the next meeting, we will be talking to representatives from the next 3 industries, being, let's see, it's getting a little dark in here. Administrative and support and waste management and remediation services. That has about 7,900 jobs in Lakewood. Professional, scientific, and technical services. That is about 7,800 jobs in the city of Lakewood. And the third is accommodation and food services. Imagine how they've been hit through this crisis. And that represents about 7,600 jobs. So these have been, as I said, very productive conversations. And I think all who were involved really appreciated the information and the opportunity to share. At the very end of that conversation, we discussed this concept of a potential business relief program, which would be a proposed grant and loan program. What I'd like to do, this is still in the works, and what I'd like to do is just give you the preliminary, kind of the conceptual information about this particular program that was discussed with these representatives, as well as it was developed by the Economic Development staff. So what I'd ask from you is, let me tell you what kind of the bones of this particular program, what they are, and let us know if you'd like us to further develop it and bring it in front of you. Again, this is yet another program that's unfunded, so it would take an active council to approve this if this is something you want to do. So I'll do this very briefly. Remember, this is coming from the Economic Development Department, and the funds would be used from the ED funds, which are born from lodger's tax, which is a 3% accommodation tax. So this isn't the general fund dollars. These are tax on hotel rooms. So here's the concept of the program. The total program would cost $1 million, and it goes like this: $200,000 in grants and $800,000 in loans. And again, it would come from the Economic Development Fund. The people would be granted individual awards, and if in a minute I'll talk about what that criteria is, how you can qualify to be awarded. So it's one of 2 ways. You can get a grant. If you're awarded a grant, you can receive a grant of up to $2,000 per awardee. That's a grant. The other one is a one-time loan of up to $10,000 per awardee. And the loan features are, it would be a 0% interest loan. The term would be a 2-year loan. The first payment would be deferred for 6 months from the closure of that loan. And if monthly payments are successfully made on time, the last 25% of the loan would be converted to a grant, and which would be up to $2,500. Briefly, and if you're interested in seeing if you're interested in moving forward and directing staff to develop this more specifically, of course, you'll have all of this in writing. We just need to know if we should take this next step. We're looking at, in order to be eligible, you need to be a business that's a non-home-based business with a physical address in the city of Lakewood's non-residential zoning districts. Home-based businesses are ineligible. The business must have a designated workspace or private office space to be eligible. Needs to have been in operation on January 1st, 2020. Have an active Lakewood business license. Be in good standing with city permits, licensing fees, and tax submittals. No more than 50 full-time equivalent full-time employees, FTEs. And they'd have to have been forced to temporarily close or forced to dramatically limit operations due to public health orders related to COVID-19. And businesses with more than one physical location in the city of Lakewood may apply for the program for only one location. So that's the criteria that we're putting together, and there's much more detail. The loans would be completed and serviced through a third party, not-for-profit business lender. We wouldn't be the lending source. And within 10 days of being awarded, the loan would be closed. So those are some details. If you want us to move further, you had asked us to look at ways that we can assist our business community through this crisis. And this is the recommendation that staff came up with. And also it's supported by the Alameda bid as well as the West Colfax Business Improvement District. And I believe also the West Chamber, but we'll have all that detail when we had the actual program. I'm sorry, that arrow was distracting to me. So Mayor, if you would like, I haven't concluded my report, but if you'd like, do you want to have this conversation at general business, or can I just get a thumbs up or thumbs down to bring this to you? How would you like to do this?
Well, I think, the structure is kind of what was sent out, and this would come back for a more robust conversation. I would say if there's thumbs up on this to just continue working on this to bring back, then we should do that. And if not, we can bring it back to general business. So. Okay,
let's see. If you have your arrows, that'd be great, because sometimes backgrounds are hard to see thumbs. And I see Vincent, Gutwein, Harrison, Skilling,
Abel, Paul,
Christine, Abel, LeBure, Frank,
Ida. Yeah, so you have clear direction to keep going forward with that.
Thank you.
You.
Thank you for that. I got a couple of questions about the Quill Recycling Center. And yes, that's been closed due to the COVID crisis, and that's been tough for a lot of people. Here's a little bit of explanation as to what's happening there. We have a lot of activity and just not enough space to maintain the necessary social distancing. Do you know that we get about 340 customers a day? So there is an enormous demand. I think even without this particular pandemic, we're going to need to look for, and we've had this conversation, but to look for a long-term solution. This is it on its best day. This is a really crowded operation. And if you think about not only social distancing, we also have issues where the attendants are routinely having contact with the materials that people are dropping off. So there's a lot of risk there. And finally, there's not running water at the center, so the attendants aren't able to routinely wash their hands with soap and water as recommended by the CDC. So it will remain closed until further notice. But as I'm reading this information, it's just become so evident to me that we really need to look for a long-term solution. Last time we met, it was requested that we put together some information on our website for businesses and nonprofits to communicate to Lakewood as it relates to what do they need related to recovery efforts. So and I believe that came from Councilor Franks. So that you know, this has been set up, and it's on it's on the Lakewood Together page, and you can find it at lakewood.org/economic recovery. And the question is, how can the city help you? The city's working hard on development of strategies and tools for businesses, nonprofits, and community partners, and we need to hear from you about how to focus those efforts. So we're asking people to get to that website and give us information, help us know how we can help you during these tough economic times. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about is we're coming up to May 4th again, which is our next meeting. And I thought, Mayor, if it's all right with you, I would take a couple of minutes and go through the upcoming council agenda topics. We decided to stop around May last time we went through this, not knowing where we were going to be as it relates to the pandemic and if we would be holding virtual meetings or what condition we'd be in. So I'd like to have a couple of minutes to go through the agenda together and decide what topics ought to be delayed and what needs to be rushed, etc. Is that suitable to you? Lots of nods. Okay. Thank you very much. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Hodson. Okay, so I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem Skilling. As you know, we are still in a state of emergency and we're still in a position to receive funding. And so council has been asked once before to extend, and there's another request to extend the emergency declaration. And again, that is the same as the first and the second, and has a check in again, I think May 11th. So it takes us 2 more meetings. And again, any funds accepted or expended during these times are accounted for separately and will be made available via the city manager. So Mayor Pro Tem.
Right. So thank you, Mayor. This will be to May 11th, 2020. So I move to continue the duration of the proclamation, the declaration of state of disaster resulting from the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, initially issued by the city manager on March 17th, 2020, pursuant to section 1.27.060 of the Lakewood Municipal Code, extended to April 13th, 2020 by a majority vote of the City Council on March 23rd, 2020, and further extended to April 27th, 2020 by a majority vote of the City Council on April 13th, 2020, with the declaration now scheduled to terminate on May 11th, 2020, unless further extended or terminated by the City Council prior to that date.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. Councilor Bida. Councilor Bida, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. A question. The way I read that resolution and the way you read it as well, it sounds like we've already had it extended to May 11th. And so then I'm wondering, why are we doing this now? Shouldn't we be waiting until May 11th? Or is the way the thing worded awkward?
The way that the thing is worded is a bit awkward. It just recites that we had extended it to April 27th, 2020 by a majority vote on April 13th. And it's the awkwardness is with the declaration now scheduled to terminate on May 11th, 2020. So the adoption of this would say it is now scheduled to terminate on May 11th, 2020. That's the awkwardness of the language.
All right, thank you. And so if otherwise it terminates today.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. One other question I thought about on this, and that is, why do we extend it to the next meeting, and then, which puts us in a position of almost have to address it first before we can go on with our meeting? Why not extend it to the day after the next meeting, so at least we can take it in the normal order, and we're not in a situation where we're questionable whether or not we have the authority to go forward until we, until we extend the authority, and it's sort of a chicken and egg thing. So wouldn't it make more sense to do it, to extend it to the day after? Just a thought.
Yeah, Counselor, thank you for that. And I really think it's council's prerogative. And I'm trying to think of how we got to that point. Mr. Cox or Ms. Hodson, do you want to address that?
That's fine. I recall the discussion about having it come up at each meeting so that it could be reviewed by council at that time. I don't recall whether we ever talked about the issue raised by Councilor Bida, but certainly if the language, if the council is more comfortable with different language, we can certainly revise it. My suggestion, a little bit off topic, is starting the next time, if we're going to do this again, and right now I assume we will, is that we can dispense with all of the interim dates, starting with the next extension, so that it simply says initially adopted and subsequently extended multiple times or something like that, so that all the dates are not part of the motion. But there's no reason that we couldn't do what Councilor Bida has suggested.
Thank you. Counselor Johnson? Oh, all right. I'm sorry, Counselor. You're good, Counselor. Okay. Counselor Johnson?
Thank you. Actually, whoops. Thank you. I appreciate you recognizing my hand that was up. I actually had a question for the city manager prior to our vote on the business relief program. In some ways, it's a little moot point right now, but since we just learned the parameters tonight, I'd like to know if we could all get a copy of the parameters. And also, I'd like to know what other sources are out there for small businesses and the amount of money that the city will be receiving to help relieve our small businesses.
Okay. And sorry we didn't catch that. We can take that up again in general business if Ms. Hodson needs more guidance on that. Councilor Springsteen?
Hey, so what I always like to do on this is to try to make a record to protect us as city council, to protect the city manager, to protect everything, the decisions that we're making, and be able to explain to constituents later why we're doing what we're doing. And, I mean, one thing to keep in mind is during crises, government has a special responsibility to thoughtfully balance public health protections and civil liberties. And so just for the sake of making a record on this, we were told the purpose of this is to obtain further funding for the city. And so I just asked that question for the record again. What funding are we obtaining, from whom, and in what amounts? And maybe some of that has been obtained already. I know that we've gotten some federal funding. That's great. But I'm just suggesting that we make a record on that. Oh, and one more thing. I heard from some constituents who were trying to call in on public comment that we went through that so fast, they didn't get a chance to call in or make public comment. So maybe we can open to public comment again and actually give people a chance to call in. Thanks.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right, please cast your votes. So the motion to extend the emergency passes 10 ayes, 1 nay, the nay being Councilor Springsteen. I'm sorry, Councilor Franks, I did not see your hand up there. Or was that your voting?
That was me doing dual duty like I was told to.
Thank you. Rule follower. Okay. So now, we have our clerk back. Good evening. So now we'll go into the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda has been made to expedite council action. It contains both resolutions and first reading ordinances. Resolutions are items of a routine nature. Members of the public will have an opportunity in a moment to comment on any of the proposed resolutions. First reading ordinance appear on the agenda only for the purpose of setting future public hearing dates and ordering the newspaper publication of the proposed ordinance. No public comments will be heard this evening on first reading ordinances. The public will have the opportunity to comment on the proposed ordinances during the scheduled public hearings on the dates set tonight by City Council. Any council members may request an item on the consent agenda be removed for separate discussion and action under general business. And Madam Clerk, that will be item number 12. Councilor Beto would like to move that to general business. So when we have you read that into the record, you don't have to go that far. But will you please read the consent agenda into the record?
Agenda consists of items 6 through 11 with the exception of item 12. Item 6, Resolution 2020-17, endorsing amendment to Lakewood 2020-2021 Head Start grant application for purpose of submitting requests to federal government for supplemental funds available to provide cost of living adjustment to staff in Head Start and Early Head Start. Item 7, Resolution 2020-18, endorsing amendment to the Lakewood 2020-2021 Head Start grant application for the purpose of submitting requests to federal government for supplemental funds available for quality improvement of services in Lakewood Head Start program. Item 8, Resolution 2020-19, authorizing a revocable license agreement between the City of Lakewood and the Alameda Corridor Business Improvement District along West Alameda Avenue at Chase Street and Otis Street to allow placement and maintenance of 2 shade structures and related appurtenances. Item 9, Ordinance O-2020-12, authorizing a supplemental appropriation to the 2020 annual budget in the amount of $178,632 and authorizing the expenditure of grant funds from the Colorado Health Foundation to assist the City of Lakewood in improving service access for people who are homeless in Lakewood. Item 10, Ordinance O-2020-13, endorsing the substantial amendment to the City of Lakewood 2019 Annual Action Plan for the Community Development Block Grant Program. Item 11, Ordinance O-2020-14, endorsing the projects and project funding levels in the City of Lakewood 2020-2024 Consolidated Plan and 2020 Annual Action Plan for the Community Development Block Grant Program.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we open public comment, I just want to go back. Councilor Johnson, were you a yes vote on the extension for the emergency?
Yes.
Okay. So again, 10 ayes, 1 nay. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I will now open public comment on the consent agenda. So if you would like to speak on the consent agenda, please call 669-900-918. 669-900-9128. Meeting ID 701-651-889. 701-651-889. If you did have trouble getting through on general public comment, I will allow that right now. If you're calling about second readings, this is not the time. Councilor Harrison?
I'm just concerned that the phone number that's showing on the packet or the webinar ID number that you just gave are different. So I don't know which is correct. So they may be having difficulty with that. Because my packet shows webinar ID number as 993-0777 9027. I don't know if that makes a difference.
Probably does. So I'm going off of a script.
So the number again, the webinar ID number is 993-0777-9027.
When we go back to our final public comment, I'll probably have you or Counselor Franks reread that. My script has a different participation number. Thank you. Madam Clerk, anybody in the queue? Bernie's saying no? Okay.
Nobody's in there.
I will close public comment. We have a motion and a second on the consent agenda. Counselor Franks, you have your hand up. Maybe you were going to tell me the same thing. And we will certainly we come back for the next round and make sure we have a little bit more time as well. Okay, motion and second. Any more discussion on the consent agenda minus item 12? Mayor Pro Tem, make a motion.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep. Mayor, I move to order all ordinances introduced on first reading to be published in the Denver Post with public hearings set for the date included in the ordinance and for the adoption of resolutions, all of which are included in the consent agenda, introduced into the record by the city clerk.
Second.
Thank you. Now we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. I don't know if now is the correct time. I did have a few questions on items 10 and 11. Should we wait until the second reading or?
Yes, the second reading. Councilor Beta has pulled item 12 to propose a rescheduling of the date, but items 10 and 11 would be on second reading. And if you have questions for staff, we can go ahead and get those in to them this week as well or next week. Thank you. All right. And I would be remiss if I didn't say there's a lot of good stuff in this, especially I want to thank the Mayor Pro Tem and the committee that did the selections for the community grant program. Actually, that's not part of this, so never mind. Okay, please cast your votes. Councilor Springsteen? Okay. Councilor Johnson, is that a upper hand? Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3. And that passes 11 ayes, 0 nays. Consent agenda passes 11 ayes, 0 nays. If I am wrong, please let me know. Okay. Thank you, Councilor Franks and Councilor Johnson. Will the clerk please read item 13 into the record?
Item 13, Resolution 2020-20, approving award of funds under 2020 Lakewood Community Grant Program.
Now open the public hearing on Resolution 2020-20. Councilor Harrison or Franks, will you please reread the call-in number for public comment? I'll go to Councilor Franks, if you can do that.
Thanks, Mayor Paul. The number is 1-669-900-9128. That's 1-669-900-9128. The web ID is 993-0777-9027. Repeating 993-0777-9027, and then just follow the prompts that'll direct you how to enter the meeting.
We will wait a second. Mayor Pro Tem, do you want to talk at all while we're waiting about this? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you to the committee, which is comprised of community members, some of which are on the LAC as well. And we had, I think, 200 and some odd $1,000 this year for $100,000 worth of grant. And those applicants ranged, there were a lot of different programs, all very worthy of grants. However, we had to obviously make a decision without all of the money there. Certainly, there was recognition of the circumstances that we're in, and with the COVID situation. But with that said, the committee did look beyond that, and even at a higher level than just those circumstances we're in now. For example, making sure that 40 Arts, the libraries, the Kiwanis Club with their books. Not all of the grantees got the full award they were asking for, but certainly those cultural projects, we didn't want those just to go by the wayside because of the circumstances we're in, which I think is why it was critical that we have this second round of COVID only. Because had it not been for that, then obviously I think the decisions might be different. So I think that was critical, but I certainly would thank all the committee members, Emily, who was leading that from the staff side, and it was a really good discussion. A lot of people put a lot of work in reviewing voluminous applications. There's a lot that goes into that, so really appreciate all that, and I think these grants are going to some very good causes.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, Bernie, do we have anybody? Seeing a no. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, will you go ahead and make a motion, please?
I move for the adoption of Resolution 2020-20.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. As I was saying earlier, this is an incredibly important program, and when you look at the folks who are being served, I appreciate that. I think Mayor Pro Tem Abel last year as well, I think it's hard to try to pick and choose winners and losers, so you try to spread the pie, and I know people really appreciate that. And for folks who are not familiar, the member of council on that by the rules of this program is the Mayor Pro Tem, and they participate in that. So motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. And that passes 11 ayes, 0 nays. Thank you all very much. So will the clerk please read the next two items, items 14 and 15, and I'm going to ask her to read both of these because Councilor Springsteen has indicated that she would like to make a motion to extend these to June 8th as of right now, and also to clarify for people who may want to call in and comment, she wanted to make sure that they knew that this was going to be something that she would do. So, Madam Clerk, will you please read 14 and 15?
20-1, amending Lakewood Municipal Code, Title 12, and Article 10 of Title 17 to reflect changes in state and federal law relating to wireless services and communications. Item 15, continued Resolution 2020-9, establishing certain fees for placement of wireless carrier or small cell facilities within the City of Lakewood public way.
Okay, I will now open the public hearing, and I think I have the meeting ID number down correctly, but the call-in number is 1-669-900-9128, 669-900-9128, and the meeting code is 993-077-9027. 3 3s? All right, so I don't have it down correctly. Councilor Harrison, please read the
Barb,
Barb here. Basically, it's 993 and then 0777 9027. So it's 3 digits, 4 digits, and 4 digits.
993-0777-9027. A lot of John Elways in that. And just to reiterate to those folks who may be listening, Counselor Springsteen, we make a motion to continue. Madam Clerk, anyone? Okay. I will close public comment and Counselor Springsteen, do you want to just speak to that? And I'll actually, since Counselor or Mayor Pro Tem Skilling has the language to move those forward, I can ask him to make the motion if that's acceptable.
Well, I'm concerned because I know that there was a petition that 65 people signed who are with the Lakewood Broadband Task Force, and they have a website, www.lakewoodbroadband.org, who are concerned about the 5G and wireless issue. And people had wanted to comment. I think there was concern about why this was back on the agenda tonight when we had already discussed moving it off the April 27th agenda. And so I think there's some confusion about what happened and why it ended up back on the agenda and why we're having to make a motion to move it to June. But, essentially there was a lot of concern, and the petition was about the public having a meaningful chance to really address this with council and have experts of their choosing address the council on this issue. I am getting a comment from a constituent, can't get in, dialed the number and put in the ID code, and she can't get in. So I think we're having some issues with the public comment part of this, but at any rate, so maybe we can keep working on that so people can get in if they want to. But I think the concern is that there's a lot to this and people really want to address council. We've seen dozens of emails from dozens of constituents who are very concerned. And so I hope even on June 8th that we may consider postponing again if the public hasn't had a chance to really weigh in. But the motion I was going to make, and Councilor Skilling, I don't know if you would change the language, but just that we continue these items to at least June 8th or a date after which we have had meaningful in-person public input. So maybe you would word it a little differently, but that was the motion I was going to make.
Okay. You, Madam Clerk, did somebody ring in?
We did have.
Oh, sorry, Bernie, go ahead. Bernie, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We did have 2 callers.
Okay.
But they hung up or got disconnected.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Goldstein?
Mayor, I was just going to perhaps remind people that they need to press *9 if they would like to speak.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Franks?
me, the two calls that hung up, I was just trying to say as well that I think people did not read the agenda, the *9. So those hangups were me just confirming that the phone number and the meeting number worked. And then that was me hanging up. So I just wanted to be clear that that was me twice. And in the future, we probably want to add to the script that *9 is going to be key. It says that you'll be put into the queue. And I'm sorry I didn't call that out earlier.
No, thank you. Thanks for pranking our clerk, too. Councillor Johnson?
Thank you. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I would just like to follow up with Councillor Springsteen. And the 5G issue is one of those issues that would really benefit from a point-counterpoint presentation. And I'd just like to put that in there, that I would like to see that happen. And also that it's difficult to make a date certain because we're not sure when we're all going to be back in the chamber. And that's really the appropriate place for this kind of discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent?
Yes, maybe I'm getting a little confused. It seems like we're talking about this now, and I thought we were just going to make a motion to a certain date. Also, too, I'm uncomfortable with saying until meaningful conversation happens. I think we need to have a date, stick to it, and then, because there's opinions on all sides of it, but at some point, we're going to have to make a decision.
Councillor Bida?
Yes, I'm in agreement. This needs to be rescheduled and so that folks can have a meaningful participation in this decision, because I see a growing number of people becoming interested and concerned in this issue. It's a growing population out there that are becoming aware of this. So this needs to be set over.
Councillor Franks? No? Okay. Councillor Springsteen, and then I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem to make a motion.
Yeah, I mean, I just think this is an example of us not having meaningful discussion with the public on this, because I'm getting message after message that people can't get in. And so, sure, we can set it forward to a date certain, but if people cannot address us, we have not had meaningful public input.
So let me reiterate, the goal originally was to postpone this until we could. There were certain things such as CCU, as well as 5G, where we knew that we needed public interaction. And so if we don't get that on June 8th, it will have to be postponed. There have been public opportunities, as well as an outside expert that was brought in to have extra time to participate. And the goal was to have the community weigh in and start to work on things within the framework that the city council can adopt. There are serious preemption issues, federal and state. And I think there's a certain amount of misinformation now, unfortunately, with people confusing 5G with broadband and looking for different things. So the goal is to continue to have those questions brought in. Keep in mind that Lakewood Speaks is open. I think there was only one comment on Lakewood Speaks. We did receive quite a few form letters that had a little bit to do with 5G, but other things that had to do with broadband. So the community is weighing in. That's great. Let's continue to have those conversations. And let's also look at things that we can do within our legal realm to make things, as Mayor Pro Tem Skilling said in the previous conversation, as strict as we can so that we have an ordinance to move forward. Mayor Pro Tem, motion please on item 14. Just clarification, Mr. Cox, can these be made together since they kind of go together, or do they need to be separate?
It would be more appropriate to do them separately.
That's fine.
There's a vote on each.
Mayor Pro Tem. Item 14.
Continuance of ordinance 0-2020-1 to June 8th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to extend item 14 to June 8th, 2020. Any discussion? There's a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. And that passes 11 ayes and 0 nays. Mayor Pro Tem, will you please, will you please address item 15?
I move for the continuance of resolution 2020-9 to June 8, 2020.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Councilor LeBeer? No? Okay. Motion and a second to extend item 15 to May 8th, 2020. All in favor? Aye. Okay. And Councilor Johnson, are you a yes? You just went away on us. Okay. Passes 11 ayes, 0 nays.
Mayor, may I just say, you said May 8th. I think you meant to say June 8th.
The motion was correct. What I repeated was wrong. So yes, both of those will be extended to June 8th, 2020. Thank you. All right. Madam Clerk, will you please reread in item 12 under general business, please?
Item 12, Emergency Ordinance O-2020-15, creating the COVID-19 Impact Grant Program and authorizing a supplemental appropriation to the City of Lakewood 2020 annual budget in the amount of $100,000 from the general fund and authorizing the expenditure thereof and further declaring an emergency.
Thank you. Councilor Bita asked this to be moved, and as you know, on first reading ordinances, it's just about scheduling, so this isn't about the merits of the body or that sort of thing, but a request to move it further down the road. Councilor Bita, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, the reason I'm asked to have this moved, and I really can't say any more than what our new Director of Finance said just a little while ago when she explained to us what kind of information we were going to have, when we're going to have it, how good it's going to be, and so forth. And before I go over that a little bit, I mean, the point is that we're just starting to get the information that comes in, and I'm saying the hard data, hard information on how this virus has affected our revenue and the streams in the city. And the data is still very, very preliminary. It's very sketchy. And we're being asked here, or going to be asked here next week to vote on, or in 2 weeks, to vote on this emergency funding of $100,000 or more at a time when we really don't know where we're at financially with the city. We really don't know, and we're not going to know for a while. We're not going to know next week. Next week, when she said when she gives a report, it'll be based on 2 weeks in March of the virus. That's what we're going to have data on, and April won't come in for quite some time yet, and then we'll have 6 weeks of data. And as Holly said, we know it's going to impact the city for a while. All of 2020, maybe 2021 and beyond. We just don't know. And so before we start doling out money on something like this, I think we want to have a really good feel for just where we're going to be in the next coming months. And I want to remind you that we already have on the agenda 500 and some thousand that we're going to be giving out for COVID-19 funding for various social issues, help. We already approved $100,000, additional $100,000 today for that, and now we're contemplating an additional $100,000 on top of that. And I just think we're getting the cart before the horse. I think we should take this back off a little bit and at least put this on the back burner until June if not even later than that. Keep in mind that there's a lot of other sources for the kind of awards that we're talking about. The federal government is continually updating its awards here. The Congress is. There's state money available. There's a lot of private money available that are out there. At least the faith-based, for example, they're working really hard to address these issues of homelessness, food, rent, all of those kinds of things. And I heard one of the cardinals from New York today talking about it from the Catholic Church side, and he was also speaking from the other churches as well, that they're putting out money like crazy, and they know that this is, they need to do this at this time. That's what they're for, and they're going to do that until they run out of money. And so there are a lot of other sources for that, but I want to remind you, when it comes to public safety, which was one of our number one priorities for as a city government, there are no other choices. We don't have any other choices. So we need to be very, very scrupulous, very, very careful about getting too far down the road on some of this giveaway money until we have a better feel. So that's why I'm saying let's not address this 2 weeks. Let's put it down at least till June 8th, maybe even into July, and we have a better feel for our situation.
Okay, Councilor Beat, I'm going to need you, if you want to do that, to make a motion, please, and pick a date. Originally, you had said June 8th, I think, in your original email.
Yeah. I think June 8th is reasonable. We'll have a little bit more information. We're still going to be lacking even then, but at least it's a date certain, and then we can decide then if we have enough or we want to go further down the road. So I would move that that the second reading be continued until June 8th.
Okay, there's a motion to continue item 12, emergency ordinance 2020-15 to June 8th. Is there a second? Councilor Johnson, are you a second?
Yes, I would like to second that. I was muted and I couldn't unmute it. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilor Harrison. And again, I want to be careful not to dig into the merits. This is just the postponement part.
I guess what I would say is that the postponement part is what bothers me, because of the fact that these grants can help businesses now kind of solidify a little bit. I realize 100,000 is a lot of money, but to the businesses, it might, really help them make it another 2 weeks until they can get opened back up. So postponing it that far, I'm a little concerned of the help that it will actually provide. So that would be my concern.
And keep in mind, this is not the business program that Ms. Hodson rolled out. This is a community grant program for nonprofits providing services directly to COVID, and to Councilor Abel's point, not for personnel. Councilor LeBeer.
Yeah, I'll try to be short and sweet, but I just think that we should continue to move it forward as it was originally set up. I think, we're not going to know the full picture of everything, but we also have a lot of community organizations that are hurting right now. We know from our homeless study, we have over 500 people in Lakewood that are homeless, and this is the kind of money that could help bring some immediate relief, some relief that might not come very quickly with a bureaucratic state or bureaucratic federal government that's taken a while to get money to some of these resources. This is something that's pretty low-hanging fruit that we can do today pretty quickly. So I think we should continue to have the conversation and adjust accordingly as we roll with the punches that we're going to see. And a lot of other communities have been doing something similar: Arvada, Aspen, Broomfield, Aurora, Denver. Really I believe Golden is doing something now, a loan program and some things to their community nonprofits. So I think we're in line with what a lot of people are doing, and I feel pretty comfortable that this is not a substantial amount of money in terms of relativity to the city. So I would support just continuing to move it as it originally was. Thanks.
Councilor Gutwein?
Oh, thank you. I agree. I will not be supporting delaying this grant program. And just to be brief as well, these are taxpayer dollars that it's the community's money, and I think we should put the community's money to work for the community during these times as quickly as we can. There is a timeliness issue, and I do think that Councilor Bita is correct that we absolutely need to be fiscally responsible and keep our eye on the economy and all of the impacts that we're going to have. I think that's completely accurate. I do think, however, that we can feel responsible about a grant program of this size, given our overall budget and the amount that we have in our reserves. So I would like to go ahead and move forward with this so that we can get relief for our community members who are hurting right now.
Councilor Abel? One second. You're stuck. There you go.
There we go. I agree the need is now. We have all endorsed looking into spending 10 times this much for businesses. And there are folks out there about to lose their homes, don't know where they're going to buy their groceries tomorrow. The need's now, and I think we need to go ahead and take care of it.
Councilor Johnson?
Thank you. I would just like to reiterate what Holly Bjorkman said. We don't have much data in yet to even know how we are going to cover our core services. And if I'm not mistaken, I read today that the federal government will be shortly coming out with the 4th version of the CARES. It's for, I believe, like in the $1 trillion. Also, Holly mentioned that she will be looking at items that are not already in the budget. And this certainly is not already in the budget. We just need to see what our own finances look like before we start giving out more money. One of the grants that we just voted on does cover things like rent and mortgage, food. And so there are some resources out there that will be coming out very quickly.
Councilor Springsteen?
So what about some alternative, like waiting until after the budget study session on May 4th and then bringing it back May 11th? So that's kind of a middle ground where we have a better idea of the budget, but we're moving quickly. It's just a suggestion.
Thank you. So essentially, Councilor Springsteen, to that point, you could do that based upon the May 4th, because this is scheduled right now to May 11th, which would be the next week. So there's a motion and a second to delay this until June 8th. If that passes, we would wait till June 8th. If it doesn't, then we would have to take a separate vote to then put it back on track for May 11th. So the motion and a second to delay to June 8th, please cast your votes. And that motion fails, the nays being Gutwein, Vincent, Harrison, Skilling, Paul, Franks, LeBeer. Abel. Councilor Springsteen, were you a yes or no vote?
Sure, how to vote on this one.
We need you to vote, please.
Okay. I guess.
Okay. So the ayes, it's probably going to be easier, Madam Clerk. The ayes are Johnson and Beta. The nays are the rest of the group. Do I need to say the nays for the record, or am I okay? Okay. All right. So Mayor Pro Tem, will you make the original motion now?
Yeah, let me go. I need was it 2020-12?
2020-15. Item 12.
Oh, item 12, that's right. Okay, so I'm for the adoption of, well,
You're moving for the publication and scheduling of second reading, ordinance 2020-15 on May 11th, 2020.
all right, so sorry, my computer's not cooperating with the language. Let me see if I can just do this. So I move for the publication of ordinance 2020-15 in the Denver Post for second reading on May 11th, 2020.
Second.
Motion is second. Mr. Cox, is that acceptable?
I think it is. Normally we'd be passing it on first reading, but because of the fact it was removed from consent, it's good to have the specific date for second reading in the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Councilor Johnson, you have your hand up.
No, that's fine. I think it's still up from last time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, motion and a second. Seeing none, please cast your votes. And that looks like it passes 9 ayes, 2 nays, the nays being Johnson and Beta. Okay. Anything else for general business? Ms. Hodson, were you clear on Ms. Johnson's earlier questions that she had? And maybe Ms. Johnson, do you want to just repeat those related to the business program?
I think I'm not muted, so I can tell you what I think Councilor Johnson asked. She wanted specific criteria on that particular program, the Economic Business Recovery Program, and because it was forwarded this evening, you absolutely will get that criteria, and we will fine tune that program. And the other question you asked, I think, was about funding. Did you ask about alternative funding, Councilor Johnson?
Am I muted or unmuted?
You're unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Kathy. I'd like to know what other sources of money our small businesses will be getting and how much. Because this is going to support small businesses. There is other money that is coming. Do we have any idea how much and from where?
Yes, so that would be, I think you're speaking of the federal dollars that are being approved in DC currently, and there are other bills in front of our legislators currently, in fact. So I don't have specifically that money. I know that the CARES Act, the first round of that was passed, but maybe next week on May 4th, at our study session, we can talk a little more extensively about some of the federal dollars that we are eligible for. At this point in time, we haven't received any CARES Act dollars, but we're hoping at some point to do that. As it relates specifically to small business, that wouldn't, except for this program we're looking at here, that wouldn't be a program that comes directly from the city of Lakewood. It would be passed directly from the feds and potentially through the state. So we can speak more specifically to that when we talk about the budget condition next week, and I can talk a little bit about the federal dollars.
Okay.
I would say one other thing, and that is the status of those federal dollars. They change on a daily basis in terms of what our opportunities might be for those. So what I know today is pretty minor, but I think we'll have some more information by this time next week. It changes that rapidly.
Thank you, because I think it's important that if we have a business relief program and we've got a considerable amount of money in there, it looks like it's a lot of work and thought has gone into implementing it. But I think it's important for all of us to know how much other money we anticipate to come up or to come into our city to help our businesses.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's jump into reports. So, just so the community knows, lakewood.org/virus is going to be probably our most up-to-date information that we have. Dr. Johnson did extend the stay-at-home order until May 8th, and we do have curbside availability for businesses. So there's a lot of things moving and happening. That Jefferson County order from the health department encompassed clearly the city and the county, but they're also similar in Denver, Adams, Arapahoe, and Boulder. And so we're going to continue to monitor that. Lakewood does have the highest number of COVID cases, and the goal is to see those start to decrease. The governor has also issued different rulings and orders that will help us step down. I think it's important to note, and other communities have mandated this, but I think we can all encourage the opportunity to wear a mask when we are out and about for the safety of our neighbors and our fellow residents. Again, please continue to look at lakewood.org/virus. I want to give just a quick shout out to Karen Harrison, our colleague. It's been certainly a tough couple of weeks, and we're glad to have you with us tonight, and certainly send our best to you and your family for that. I'd like to give a shout out to Bill Marino, let you know we're thinking about you and wishing you all the best as well. And city manager reviews, I think if you have not got those in, those are due in on Thursday. And Jonathan and the sustainability team did an incredible job with a virtual Earth Day that lasted, I think, 2 or 3 hours, and really engaged a lot of different people from all over the community. And I want to give a shout out to him and his crew. Again, our communications team, Ben and Jonathan, for helping to put that all together. So many different participants. And it really was a bright light during a challenging time. And I want to thank you for that. So that's all that I have. I will actually close with one more thing. I am over the Zoom meetings. I really can't wait to get back to being with all of you in the chambers. And I think I said the pledge wrong tonight for the first time since 3rd grade. So there's that. Mayor Pro Tem Skilling.
I have no report. You covered it well.
Did you just call on me, Mayor? Hello? Can y'all hear? Can anyone else hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor, you're muted.
I'll just go ahead. Thank you. Saturday morning, we have Ward 1, we'll have our first ward meeting on Zoom. Everybody keep your fingers crossed and hope that we come out the other end of it okay. You can start signing up at 9 o'clock. The meeting will start about 9:30. Dr. Mark Johnson of Jefferson County Public Health will be on hand and will give us a presentation, and then we'll answer some questions. The information is on the city's website under the Attend a Meeting icon. The Ward 1 meeting for Saturday, May 2nd, I believe. So please, as many folks as can attend, please do. We'll get you out in time to do a lot of gardening. Thank you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Charlie did a nice job of talking about our ward meeting. I would just like to publicly thank Dr. Johnson. Today he came out and is starting to open up elective surgeries in the hospitals here. For the hospitals, the elective surgery is their bread and butter money, and they are hemorrhaging without that. So that is a wonderful thing to start to turn that around. And also, I'd like to thank him for taking the online reporting form off of his website. I appreciate that. I had gotten many negative responses about that, and thanks. I appreciate it. Mark, we'll look forward to seeing you Saturday. Thank you.
Ward, I will unmute both of you at the same time. Go for it.
Now we're going to dance like who goes first, right?
Ladies first.
Okay. Hey, I did have a question. Is there anything we can do? I've gotten quite a few complaints about stores that are not honoring social distancing at all, having no percentage of people allowed in, no masks on the employees. So I did not know if there was an avenue which we could point those people to, or that I can contact. It's some of your larger mass retailers, let's say that, but people are getting very concerned.
We certainly can connect you with Jefferson County Department of Health. As far as masks, it's just really encouraged, and in some cities it's mandatory, but right now it's just encouraged, and the more people that do it will probably stave off a mandate. So that's the best we can do.
Okay. And a lot of it was about the crowding. I think that's, go ahead.
All right. Well, I was just going to add, we're probably going to be doing another Zoom meeting here in another 2 weeks coming up. So we're planning that and looking forward to that discussion. Feel free to let us know what you're interested in hearing about. There's been a lot of different conversations in the ward in the last few weeks. It's been a lot of fun. So anyway, but we look forward to hearing from you and your thoughts, and look forward to seeing you at our next ward meeting. So thanks.
And I just want to say too, with the broadband or 5G issue, I know that people have talked to me about it, but in order to get it on record, folks, I need you to send something to Jacob and I, or to all of City Council, or in Lakewood Speaks. Because we value all your opinions, and we do want to have a good conversation about this. So if you would please do that, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Ward 3, Councilors Springsteen and Beta, you are both unmuted.
Ladies first.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that on May 5th at 9 a.m., I'm trying to set up another ward meeting. There was one on Saturday as well. And just for those who can't attend on Saturdays, I wanted to do some alternative. And so please look at the city website to follow up on that. I'm just planning sort of a discussion about what people are going through in these difficult times, and concerns and questions. And then I just wanted to mention once more about how proud I am of this group of citizens who's working to educate people on the 5G issue. There are citizens who are literally putting in hundreds of hours on this, and it's very heartening when people are so active in the community. So thank you to all of you who are doing that.
Okay, couple of things. We did have a virtual city Ward 3 meeting on Saturday, using kind of a combination of the Zoom application and then people calling in. We had about 30 people at one point on that had called in and were listening. It went very well. And we talked primarily about the virus, answered a few other questions as well, but we had good participation. I want to thank Jesse Miller, who's our emergency director. He made a presentation and answered many questions. And we had lots of compliments about his answers and his knowledge and ability. So people really learned a lot. Also wanted to thank our assistant clerk, Bernadette Salazar, who acted as our traffic cop there in terms of handling the calls and everything. And I don't think we could have done it without her. So I really appreciated her. I mean, she just jumped in there and just like she knew what she was doing. So it was really nice. I also want to say something to our city manager. Thank you for our discussion on Friday and for reaching out to all of council to get them involved very early in the budget impact discussions. I think we recognize that it can be somewhat unwieldy and in terms of the budget, not a committee, and then we bring it to council at some point. We go through this, and we wanted to streamline the process because of this circumstances, and I think we found a way to do that. Starting next week, we'll have a study session with the latest information and start talking about some of the policy decisions that this council is going to be faced with at some point. So it's basically a way to get y'all involved very early, and I really thank our city manager for being willing to do that. That's all.
Mr. Springsteen, you put your hand.
I just wanted to say happy 80th birthday, Dad. It's his birthday today. So, sorry, thanks.
Oh, that's cool. Happy birthday. All right, Mayor Pro Tem, you already said no. Councilor Franks?
Thanks, Mayor Paul. I just wanted to let folks know that I think I might have figured out why we're having some of the issues. If you call in at the beginning of the meeting, you're tracking with us in real time. You're hearing every speaker in real time. But if you're looking at the council videos, basically that's going through Comcast and YouTube. There's a 30-second delay. So if you're just watching it and then you hear us say, hey, call in, it's actually, we said that 30 seconds ago, roughly. And so that's kind of a disconnect. So for those who want to speak at the next meeting, I would suggest that you call in and listen and track with the meeting in real time, or, or make other arrangements where we know that you're going to do that, because the video that's being shown is on a 30-second rough delay. And so I think that might be factoring into some of the disconnect. And that's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, back to you. You raised your hand.
I was going to say, I mean, we can work on that between now and the next meeting. I think there's things we could do. We could put a little pause in there, 2 minutes when we're going into public comment, get the waiting room filled. Maybe we can put up on the screen here somewhere, like permanently create a new box for the phone number and the call in. I will just take it a little slow, maybe at the public comment part to address what Councilor Franks just said. So I think we'll work on it. Bear with us. We're adapting like everybody else. You haven't had my 6-year-old interrupt any of these meetings, so we're doing well.
Yeah, well said. And it was my fault earlier. I had the wrong participation number. So, Councilor Gutwein and Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor. Brief update. Well, I hope you're not too sick of Zoom meetings, Mayor Paul, because we're hoping that you will be joining us for our town hall this Saturday. So thank you for being there for that. So we are planning on having our second town hall or ward meeting this Saturday. We'll do it at 9 a.m. just like usual. It'll be a Zoom meeting like this. We are going to try to do call in. So we'll figure that out. And it's just hard to believe that it's already been a full month of meetings like this, because this is already our second board meeting. So hopefully we will be back in person as soon as possible, but we will just be doing, an update and getting questions and listening to what's going on in our community. So thank you.
And I just want to add that I will be out of town this weekend, but Dana's going to do a great job, and thank Mayor Paul for helping as well.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. You were muted. I couldn't hear your introduction. I only saw that my mute went away.
Seeing if you had a report, or Miss Millard or Miss Hodson, anything else to add?
Nothing to do with it.
I actually do have one thing I want to add. At the last meeting, I talked a little bit about the difficulty in planning for the summer when we don't know about social distancing and what facilities will be able to open, et cetera. So I want to let you know that, Dr. Johnson returned a call and we had a nice conversation, and I expressed our concern amongst at least the Jeffco cities and how we're all wrestling with, do we open pools? Are we allowed to have concerts? How can we do this and still make sure that our citizens are safe? So he immediately connected me with an executive on his cabinet who reached out. This gentleman's name is Jim Rada, and he reached out after maybe 5 minutes after the call with Dr. Johnson, and he's going to hold like a task force of the city managers and the Parks and Rec directors to talk about not only what all these complications are and to help us find some solution, but also he would be like the interpreter, if you will, when it comes to the community health, so that we're not missing anything. If we talk about opening a facility or having swim lessons, what does that mean from the health department's perspective? So I'm really glad about that. This felt kind of risky, and I want to make sure that as we move forward, that the decisions that are made are in the utmost of safety and health of our community. So I'll let you know as those progress. I know Director Newland reached out to him today, and they've started a conversation as well. So that I couldn't be more impressed by our public health department. They've really been responsive, and I think they're going to give us some good information as we move forward. And of course, as we have that, I'll certainly pass that on to you. So thank you.
All right, folks. Well, again, Lakewood, thank you so much for all you're doing and how you're taking care of one another. And thank you for bearing with me and this platform. And we can always get better and do better. And we'll see you next week, Monday night, May 4th. And that'll be a very informative meeting. Council, please get those questions in so that we have time to review the information that you might have. And we can get you as accurate of information or answer your questions relating to the budget next week. So with that, we are adjourned at 8:48 p.m. Thank you all.